Hello, everybody. Hello out there. We've got Tom and Bradley. Hey, Simon.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Look, I'm pretty good. We are at the cusp of summer, which is very exciting.
So your parents came and visited from where are they from? Where do they live?
From Jersey in the Channel Islands.
Jersey,
which is a small island off the coast of France.
How many of our viewers know where Jersey is? And we don't mean Jersey like New Jersey. We're talking about Jersey. I bet Sandra knows where Jersey is.
Sandra definitely knows.
Sandra.
Sandra knows. She's from the north. Sandra. Yes. So Jersey is an island off the coast of France, about 20 miles off the coast of France, and it is about 9 miles that way and 5 miles that way. It's quite small.
What's the police? Well, I'm just trying to think. What's the police force like there?
Well, it's quite interesting. There's a whole government, sort of different kind of government there. It runs its own affairs, and so there is a regular police force, but there's also a volunteer police force called the honorary police, where it's kind of a volunteer police force as well. It's quite weird.
Can you imagine if there was an honorary police, like a police that worked under the honor system in Jersey? Like the Jersey that we know and love, and
be run by Tony Soprano, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see. I'd like to see a Newark run by the honor police. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's an interesting little place. If you're a history person, it's got a lot of interesting history.
Does it have a lot of history, or is it basically more like a throwback to like 1732?
No, because it was in between England and France. There was often sort of little stoushes between England and France. They didn't get on for a long time.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, a lot of famous sea battles.
Yes.
Right.
And so yeah, it's quite an interesting thing, and because it's so close to Normandy and Brittany, it was involved with those guys a lot. So it's a very interesting place.
Well, I'm glad you got a chance to visit. You hadn't seen them in a few years, right?
No, 3 years. Yeah.
So good people out there. Tonight we are going to talk about the 10 most important guitar players of all time. And I'm going to poke the bear tonight. This was a setup. I've been waiting for this episode because Simon's cutting me off there because he knows where I'm going with this. So I don't want to hear. So first of all, we're going to we want to get participation tonight. Okay. But we're going to set some ground rules. Please no Cliff Clavins tonight. What do I mean? Does anybody know what I mean by that? Cliff Clavin was the postman on the show Cheers. And so he would always, they'd say like, who was the greatest such and such? And he'd be like, oh, it was my buddy John Franklin who lived 4 houses down. So let's not have anybody tell us how the greatest guitar player of all time is like, Tom Nutjob, who played at the small club and whatever. Let's just keep it to the ones that we all know. It very well could be that Tom Nutjob is the greatest player of all time, but since the rest of us can't weigh in on that, let's keep it to the and also we're going to talk about Metcalfe, Tom says. John Ratzenberger was the actor. John Ratzenberger, who actually went and auditioned for the part of Norm. And they didn't have the Bard know-it-all Cliff when they wrote the original script for Cheers. And Cliff convinced them that they needed that part. So he actually talked himself into not only the part, but the character. Anyway, back to our top 10 list. Jeff Fannin says Les Paul should be up there. So that's a good choice, right? Because we did make a little nuance to this. We didn't say best, we said most important. So we're going to take into consideration, influence as well as technical ability and songwriting and all that kind of good stuff. But so we're going to start with Simon's going to talk about
I think influential is quite a good word as well. Because I think there's a lot of guitar players that maybe aren't the best guitar players that maybe made you want to learn to play guitar.
Me? Oh, wait, no, I'm not on the list now.
Sure, we can make a new list, Mark, where you're at the very top.
Yeah.
So when I first heard the guitar, when I was a young fella, my godfather actually bought a jukebox from the local pub when vinyl was going out in like 1981 or something. and he had it in his house, and he, managed to hook it up so you could just press whatever you wanted. And so you press this thing, and these things flipped, and you had the pictures of the records, or the covers of the records. And so it flipped to one, and the single was "Shaking All Over" by Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. There's Johnny Kidd, and he's got the whole sort of eye patch situation, and the guitar on that tune is awesome. And I understand that guy playing that his name was Big Jim Sullivan, who is like a really famous UK session guitar player. And so, like, a lot of those sorts of unknown guys are people that influenced a lot of people.
Like Tommy Tedesco. Do you know who Tommy Tedesco is?
No.
So Tommy Tedesco was a member of the Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew were the LA session guys. And Tommy Tedesco, I believe that Tommy Tedesco and Steve Lukather both claim to have played on more than 1,000 top 40 hits. So
that's insane.
Those are two guys.
That's like that guy Nathan East who plays bass. He's played bass on like everything.
And Carol Kay, who was also a member of the Wrecking Crew. Amazing that they had a female in that group. So that going, I'm sorry,
that "Shaking All Over," the riff, it's just awesome.
And what year is that about? Can somebody look that up?
1959, I think, or 1960.
Yeah. So that's early.
And it's got this, it's got the. All that kind of stuff. All that kind of thing. And I just heard that, and I was just like, that is awesome. He looks like a pirate, which is cool, and he can play guitar like that. What more could you want?
Now, is it true that most pirates that wear the eye patch, it's because they already had the hook and they had to scratch their eye, or is that just
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the history of the eye patch. I'm not on top of that.
I want to know.
I understand it was very popular with the 1960s or late 1950s rock and rollers.
I want to know, in what order did the following come in? You're from Jersey. You're from a coastal, place, right? So you know more about pirates than I do. So between the peg leg, the eye patch, the hook, and the parrot, like what did they accumulate first? Did they first get the parrot and then things went south after that, or
maybe the parrot?
Parrot,
and then he poked out the eye, and then you kind of grab him.
The parrot's got it's a I remember I used to go to pet stores, and I love animals, but one of the things that I used to enjoy doing is you blow into the bird's cage, you blow, and they go woo like that, and I used to think that was funny. I mean, that's the worst.
And tonight on Animal Lovers.
So that's the worst thing I've ever done to pets. I've got pets. Believe me, I put up with my dogs, and for that, I should get a medal.
So I love that kind of thing, and I guess that leads. And then I'd heard that, and I said, is there other things like that? And then you heard Chuck Berry and all that kind of stuff, and I think there's a sort of super immediacy to a lot of that early rock and roll stuff, like the Little Richard stuff and all that sort of thing. And I just think, it's just like, that's just really cool.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we start off just so that people can, throw out their opinions and stuff, and we don't make it too myopic. And let's kind of get a top 20 list going to start with. Then we'll see if we can pare it down to 10. Because if you think about 10, then you start getting, a few of the, who most of us would consider the usual suspects. Certainly Chuck Berry and Jimmy Page, I would think would make the list, and Jimi Hendrix. Then you start pushing those other guys out, and I think you make a strong argument, for them being just as important as Big Jim Richardson. You said, right?
Big Jim Sullivan, I think he's
Sullivan, Big Jim Sullivan.
So he's the guy who played guitar for like Tom Jones and a lot of those sorts of big UK solo acts.
Gotcha.
So, okay. And I like. I like all that stuff. I just think it's really, really cool music. And all right,
so I'm going to tell you two people that don't make my list. We're going to start with that. I've got this book of rock lists here, okay? And rather than going through it and lambasting too many of their choices, there are two choices on here which I really don't like. One is, according to the book of rock lists, Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols is the 7th greatest guitar player of all time. I mean, that's
7.
We don't even need to honor that. And then another one that comes up, really, that I don't know how could make any top 10 list is Link Ray. So let's talk about Link Ray for a minute. So Link Ray, one song, he's famous for one song, Rumble, right? And people think that the song is so like forward thinking that it got banned from radio stations. It got banned from radio stations merely because of its title. If the song was called like Wipeout, the song wouldn't have gotten banned from radio stations. Link Ray would have gone down as a footnote in history, and I wouldn't have to read about him in this book of rock list. So
why Rumble? Why is Rumble a bad?
It's not a bad song. It's just one song, one guy, one
No, but
song.
I mean, why was Rumble banned when is Rumble a really bad word?
This was at a time when radio stations, the influence of radio stations, they were worried about being suggestive to kids. There was a lot of censorship, and they were afraid that if they said Rumble, that would be an excuse for people to go out and have a rumble. Of course, granted, back then, if you can trust Hollywood, back then, when the gangs would get into a rumble, rather than actually fighting and shanking each other, they just usually broke out into song anyway. So it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Like in Greece. Huh?
Greece or West Side Story.
Yeah.
Like they just break out into song anyway.
But it's still cool, that song, though.
It is a good song. No, I'm not. Put it this way, can you imagine like if you only had like 5 songs on your Desert Island Songs, would that be one of your 5 songs though? That'd be like, yeah, I would smash the tape deck after a while. So I'll give a shout out to people, Randy and Patrick and Sandra and all the good people that show up every couple of weeks. We really do appreciate your support. And Jeff and Tom and Brian, all of you, and Malcolm. Malcolm has been calling the channel since I had like 4 subscribers. Bill. And Zach is always on here too. And hope I didn't miss anybody. But we really do appreciate you all tuning in, and it does make it more fun. And Rick, of course, and we want you to, and Sean has already contributed to Tommy Tedesco, who I have to say was not on my original list, but is a great pick. And I would say, Rick's going with a safe pick here, but I would agree with that. Who? Jimmy who? Richie Valens, good player. I would say, so my number one pick, well, I'll save my number one pick for later, but I'm going to tell you how I got to my number one pick. So I think that these lists have been hijacked by improvisational blues players. And the funny thing about that is that every great guitar player loves to say, I'm all about playing to the song, minimalist. The best players are the ones that don't play, right? All these things we hear, but yet when we make a list of the top, we always pick players that really overplay, right? If you look at, and again, nobody's list is the right list. It's just a matter of opinion, but these lists are dominated by improvisational blues players. But in my opinion, rather than being a great improvisational blues player, I think being a great songwriter, playing to the song, writing amazing parts that fit songs, being innovative, all those things I think are equally important as flash, which is why George Harrison is obviously the greatest guitar player of all time, the most important, most influential Simon's keeping a straight face here, so I don't know how he feels about it. That's really how I feel though. I think that if you categorize, a bunch of things, songwriting, there's who's better than George Harrison at songwriting that's considered a great guitar player? Maybe Page, maybe Hendrix. It's tough to say, but innovative. Playing to the song. Think about like parts like on Two of Us, incredible part on Two. I mean, every song. How about if you take Don't Let Me Down? There are like 5. Simon, play us like the 5 great parts to Don't Let Me Down that George plays.
There's a lot of good room.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Right, there's that little.
And then it doesn't go like that. There's that bit, and then there's the other.
Yeah. Don't It's gonna last. Yeah.
You know.
Bob says Glenn Campbell was a great 12-string player. So you know what time it is, Simon, right? With that, I have to segue into this. Look what I just got. I got my first vintage guitar. Unless you consider my 88 Les Paul, which I actually got brand new. If you consider that vintage, then
No,
this
that's not
is my
vintage.
second. That's not vintage. Okay. So Simon, you take over. I'm going to go take my vintage guitar out of the case.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Yeah, so I'm just going to sub in here and talk a little bit about Jimi Hendrix. So apart from Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, I reckon the other great guitar influence in my life has been Jimi Hendrix. And now, a cool thing about what he stole a lot of stuff from, I guess, a lot of those sort of blues guitar players and the early R&B players in the sort of soul-y zone, where often in those songs there's two chords, right? So if you think of like Knock on Wood, which has got that intro bit, and then in the verse it's A and E. It just goes, and then a lot of that kind of stuff. And when you start thinking about songs like that, you start to realize that, you know, the Hendrixiness has come from somewhere else. You know, so you think of like, you know, The Wind Cries Mary and, sorry, where's it go? A lot of the time, he's doing clever but quite simple major scale stuff within the chords. So, you know, we're going E flat with a B flat bass, so with the 5 in the bass, E, F, and then he plays the same chords with a major third in the bass. And then in the verse, you've got with C, B flat, F. That's the basic chords, but C, little run in C major, B flat major, F major, which is...
That C should be a minor, right? I mean,
sorry?
Within key, that C should be a minor, right?
Yeah. So there's a super, super interesting kind of way of playing guitar. And I think when you hear, oh, it's very exciting, isn't it? When you hear the tunes and quite a lot of that sort of thing in like Little Wing, where he's doing the, you know, all of those runs. There's so much of the chord in each position. And I think that had a massive influence in the guitar world. But I'm not saying he came up with it. I think he popularized it, I guess.
Yeah,
anyway.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, Hendrix is most famous for his jamming. And I think that it's his albums that really showcase his talent the most, you know, where he was very, very deliberate in his playing. You know, a lot of people that don't know, the audience tonight. Hey, Bradley, I didn't give you a shout out. I apologize. I saw you on there though. Thank you for stopping by tonight. A lot of people think Hendrix as like this druggy guy that was just, you know, just all feel, you know, where he was incredibly deliberate. You know, he became even neurotic on his third album on Electric Ladyland. They say he had almost took on like a Chaplin-esque obsession. Charlie Chaplin, who was famously, you know, shot scenes over and over and over again. And I really think it's the, you know, it's that real obsession with perfection that is really his greatest achievement. Same thing with Page. You know, Page was like that too, right? You know, I always think of, when I think Page, I think of, you know, sneaking it late at night into the Rolling Stones mobile, you know, to record 15 tracks on Achilles' Last Stand. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that for sure that you could probably trace every guitar player's stuff to the person before them. Where does it start? There's some guy, there's some lute player back from like 1512 that's responsible for all of this. But
Devon Malcolmshire or something.
So I wonder if they had were there lute groupies?
Maybe. Anyway, tell us about this guitar, Mark.
So this is a 74 Ovation. Obviously, it's a 12-string, and apparently I already have it tuned down here. It sounds great. It's an amazing guitar. I bought it from a woman who is the original owner. She bought this brand new in 74. And
wow,
interesting. I got a couple interesting things about Ovation. So first of all, those of you that own Ovations, this has got the old school. I don't know if you can see in there. It's like the metallic. Here, let me see if I can get it without banging it here. I'm going to move my camera. It's got the old metallic Ovation. Can you see that?
Yeah.
There we go. See that? Ovation.
Oh.
And so Ovation was started by aviation legend and pioneer Charles Kaman. You may notice that on modern Ovations, it says Ovation, a Kaman company, Kaman. When I was a kid growing up, I thought it was Kaman, but it's Kaman. And Charles Kaman is famous for working with the vibrations on airplanes and especially on helicopters. And it was, through his work with the physics of vibrations that he wanted to start a company besides something in aviation, and he played guitar. So he thought that he would innovate guitars. So he came up with the round back. And I met Charles Kaman, just totally a coincidence. I was helping a friend of mine remodel a basement, and one thing led to another, and I found out that it was Charles Kaman. He was old. He was this would have been in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was in his late 80s. But I'm from Connecticut, and these were made in Hartford for many years. Ovations were all handmade in Hartford, Connecticut. And I remember the first thing I remember about Ovations before I even owned one is one of my best friends, the guy that lived across the street from him, Ored was his last name. I can't remember his first name, but he was he worked for Ovation. He was one of their big sales promoters. And at the time, Al Di Meola was really big on. He was their main endorser, and he used to always tell us I'll just, for the sake of this being a family show, that Al Di Meola was not a very nice guy. So these days, if you want, you can have pasta with Al Di Meola for like $3,000. You can have an evening with Al Di Meola. You can go to his house. He'll make dinner for you. You can play guitar with him for a couple hours, probably sign a couple guitars. That would be weird. Would you want to do that? I would just feel like you spend the money and it's like, the guy doesn't really want to hang out with you. He has no idea who you are. He's got to fake it like, he really knows who you are and, really cares who you are. And then he's really just like, man, all right, well, I'm getting $3,000 at least, So anyway, I have one other story, then you continue. So there's a guy that I've been following named Alberto Lombardi, and he's an Italian guitar player. He's an amazing Italian guitar player. Maybe somebody could find a link and put it up. So he just happened to be doing a live thing the other night, and I noticed that there was a video of him playing with Tommy Emmanuel. And I thought it was one of these deals where Tommy's a very generous guy, apparently, and he does signings, and he even has people come up on stage with him. He invites them up on stage. So I was talking to him, and I kind of embarrassed myself because this guy's actually on tour with Tommy Emmanuel. He's like playing with Tommy on stage, like as part of the show. He and Joe Robinson, who Joe Robinson is? He's another Australian.
Yes, he's one of those.
Amazing fingerstyle player, yeah. So the three of them are on tour in Europe right now, Alberto, Joe, and Tommy. And so I thought that was pretty cool because I was like, I said to him, what was it like to play with Tommy? And, like as if he was like a worshiping fan. And I not realizing that he was actually, on tour with him, he didn't go to see him and like get the special backstage pass. So anyway, Alberto Lombardi, amazing guitar player. And if you want to learn solos, the best place other than SimonMorel.com, Alberto Lombardi, to learn guitar solos is he's got these like note for note things on like how to learn all the nuances of like Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. That's actually how I found him originally. I wanted to get the real scoop behind every little nook and cranny of that solo, and he did a really good job with it. Anyway, with that, hey Charles, what's up? Back to you, Simon. Let's continue with the list. Who else you got?
Yeah, so one of Patreon's, David, he has mentioned 3 names, and I've got to say I'm not super on top of them. He's got Elliot Randall.
Okay, Elliot Randall. He played the solo on Reeling in the Years. Yeah, Reeling in the Years.
Bill Nelson.
And is Bill Nelson another Nelson that's got to go ahead of Prince on my list of the Nelsons? So, what's his name? What's your Patreon guy's name?
It's David.
Hey, Dave, just so you know, we've got this running list of people named Nelson that are better than Prince at guitar. And so far, we've got Willie Nelson, Gunnar Nelson, Ricky Nelson.
Ricky Nelson's brother? Well, no, Gunnar Nelson's brother.
Gunner's brother. We don't know his name. And now this Bill Nelson guy. I don't know him, but I know he's better than Prince. So we're going to put him on.
Well, there you go.
That knocks
I'm going to have to check him out.
Prince is now.
And Danny Kirwan.
Danny Kirwan. Wow. That's a deep cut. Danny Kirwan played guitar for Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played during the day. Period, during the Kiln House days. Yeah. So
so there you go. So there's some more for us to go and have a bit of a nerd out over. So I've come back to the list here. So we've spoken about George Harrison and
how about Tony Iommi? I'm not a big Black Sabbath fan, but this guy busted out so many classic riffs, right? I mean, if you think about riff rock, like the new metal, I mean, how many great riffs? Iron Man has like 4 great riffs in it alone.
I do enjoy that. When you were talking about Don't Let Me Down before, I do enjoy that, when you look at some songs and you run through the sort of riffs in them and you just think, if I wrote a song with one of those, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, me too.
And, Iron Man has got so many when you've got that one.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And
then the was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
killer.
One? Yeah.
I mean, and some of these songs that he they put together, their band, like it's just like riff, great riff. And I think that's obviously influenced a whole bunch of future guitar players,
Yeah, and I mean, you think about like the new metal scene and even, all riff rock. I mean, it had to have influenced, even though they were contemporaries and Page, Zeppelin 1, I came before the first Sabbath album. There was a lot of great riffs on that too, but those guys were like neck and neck with the riffs. I mean, you probably give Page the, over the years, but although I don't really know the later Sabbath albums as well as I should. I know Master of Reality. I know Paranoid. I know the first album. I know all the songs on those 3 albums. And after that, Black Sabbath Volume 4 and on, I only know, I don't know a lot. I know the Heaven and Hell album because I love Ronnie James Dio. But
right.
Randy Rhoads, Randy Rhoads, another one that, I wish that he had more time to evolve in his sound. I'm glad that he was able to make those 2 albums in the same year, right? 81. Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of, so I think influential, but then I think we've started a bit late actually with some of these guitar players. There's some other guitar players who I just really, really, really love, and they came a bit before. And I think, maybe not the best, but Robert Johnson's quite influential.
Yeah, incredibly influential for sure. Yeah.
You think of all his tunes.
Yeah.
And just the sound of all that kind of thing.
Let me ask you a question. So Robert Johnson, before I first heard Robert Johnson, honestly, back in '89 when the box set came out, and all the 27 original recordings. And when I first queued up that first song, it is not what I expected. I expected him to have this, I don't know why, this deep booming voice is what I imagined. And then when I heard this really, I went down the crossroads, he's like the Mike Tyson of music, right?
Yeah, that's right. But isn't there some controversy about whether that's actually his voice and maybe the tape has been sort of sped up or something? You can have a little YouTube Google, go down the rabbit hole of the correct pitch recordings.
I know back then, before they recorded, they liked to suck on helium balloons too a lot.
Well, and it was recorded on just like a wire or something, isn't that the recording technology at the time?
Those were probably recorded on. They may not have been recorded on tape. Maybe they were recorded. The cheapest way to do it back then was to record directly on record. I don't know how those were recorded though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So games, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that guy, Charlie Christian
for sure. Yeah.
Right.
All those guys. Yeah.
Charlie Christian, Wes Montgomery. You know,
Wes Montgomery, yeah, of course, yeah.
When you listen to some of those
Alex
records,
Lifeson, Dickie Betts, yeah. I say that Dickie Betts is better than I like Dickie Betts better than Dwayne. I just like his playing. I think it's more melodic. Yep. Jeff Baxter's a good one. Jeff Baxter just put out his first solo album, actually.
Really?
After all these years, yeah. So here's an interesting story. So my brother is a retired Air Force pilot, and he is into like missile defense stuff. And he was at a conference and he was next to this guy, and the guy next to him, he said to him, "You look a lot like Jeff Baxter." And he goes, "I am Jeff Baxter." So those of you that don't know, Jeff Baxter has a second career as a missile defense specialist and a nuclear arms specialist. So he's got like top secret clearance, and he plays a mean guitar. Yeah.
That is amazing. I like that. All those 70.
All right.
Oh dear, that's very funny. Excellent. So who else we got? Then we're going to skip forward a little bit. So, and the other one of the
Eddie Van Halen, of course, he's got to be on that list, right? Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, I think so. But you know, in terms of like, so personally, I never really liked the Eddie Van Halen situation. I wasn't that bothered by that kind of music. But so I think the other two, you already said Jimmy Page, but the big one is the Eric Clapton. Nobody really mentioned
Eric Clapton for sure. I mean, just the sheer volume of his work and the influence that he's had.
Yeah, and like I think if you asked a lot of British people, like, who's a famous guitarist, the first person they would say is Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, and then you have Jeff Beck. Have you seen that Jeff Beck live at Ronnie something or others? You know what I'm talking about? Somebody out there knows. Ronnie Scott's. Yeah, that's a really good. It's got that young female bass player. She kicks ass.
Tal Wilkenfeld. I think she's Australian.
Tal Wilkenfeld. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. She kicks ass. Yeah, Alex Lifeson absolutely has a huge riff catalog. You know, I grew up. Rush was my first band. My brother loved Rush. I have an older brother, the one I just mentioned, and so Rush was my first favorite band, and they really dominated the first Rush album through Moving Pictures was all I listened to until the fateful day in 1983 when my brother brought home two albums. A red album called Beatles 62 to 66 and a blue album called The Beatles 67 to 70. And that was a game changer, but I still love Rush. I've seen Rush live more than any other band. Yeah, I've seen them at least, 6-7 times, I think. Yeah. And there's a million great Rush riffs for sure.
And then I know we're jumping around a bit. So the Eric Clapton thing, that Blues Breakers Dino record, I listened to that a lot. And I reckon loads of other people did as well.
What record is that? I'm sorry.
The Blues Breakers.
Oh, yeah. The Beano.
The Beano record with All Your Love on it,
Yeah, sure.
Which is Otis Rush song.
Does it have a...
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Stepping Out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just listened to that a lot. That album, and then the other blues guy is B.B. King, right?
Yeah, B.B. King for sure. Chet Atkins. Yeah, I think that Chet Atkins would probably have to make that list. He would be in my top 10 just for that entire genre.
The flow-on effect of some of these guys.
Yeah, the entire genre of music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
But I love with the B.B. King thing. Like when you listen to his sort of live records, Live and Well and Live at the Regal and that kind of stuff, the touch he has on the guitar and the dynamic with which he delivers the songs is absolutely, it's just amazing.
I have a funny story about B.B. King. So I had 2 CDs in my player. One was B.B. King live at the Cook County Jail, and one was live at the Regal. And I got confused which was which. So when he was talking to the audience, you can imagine, like, I was wondering, like, you know, he's like, I'm glad you all can make it tonight. I'm like, make it, you know, they got nowhere else to be, you know. He was talking with the Regal, and I was thinking he was talking to the Morel Travis too. You know, one could argue that Morel, you know, how about Roy Buchanan? I don't really get the whole thing with Roy Buchanan. I've watched a lot of, I'd heard people mention him. I watched a lot of Roy Buchanan videos, and, you know, he's kind of slow and plodding blues player. I just, I don't know. It's not, I mean, great player, certainly better than me, but I not really, it's not one of those players that I would say that would be like my, that would be like a real deep cut. To make that argument, Tom, you'd have to give me a real good reason why. I mean, can everybody name 10 Roy Buchanan songs? Because I think in order to make this list, you have to be able to name, right? Or even name 10 Alvin Lee songs or 10
yeah, exactly.
But Alvin Lee, I know this one. I know 2 songs. I know Going Home, and I know, what is it? I'm in drop, so I can't do it. I can't do anything with my, I'm in
crazy tuning.
Did you see what I did with my top 20 70s tunes of all time? I almost put Joni Mitchell, Coyote, #1 on the list, but I chickened out and just put it as a bonus cut. It was really representative of Joni Mitchell's entire body of work.
How about Joni Mitchell?
Joni Mitchell, for sure. Yeah, incredibly.
All those crazy tunings.
Yeah, she makes my list. Yeah, she's in my top.
Yes, other people I sort of jotted down. I had T-Bone Walker on my blues guitar player lists as well, just because he's B.B. King's favorite guitar player. So
I'm not educated enough on those guys. I mean, maybe I'm really not qualified, you know, to make those, you know, those. Yeah. You know, I know, you know, the Chet Atkins I just discovered in the last 10 years, really most of his stuff because I discovered Tommy Emmanuel, and that was a natural progression backwards. But Gary Moore, who played with, what band did Gary Moore play with? What famous band? What 2 bands did Gary Moore play with? That's the first trivia question. That for $10 on if you can tell me the 2 bands that Gary Moore played with, then you will get 2 bands that I'm thinking of that he played with, both in the 70s. Thin Lizzy, that's the easy one. What's the other one? You can do it. No cheating either. Sandra's going to take all my money. She won a $25 gift card the other day. She's going to have, I'm just going to give her a bank account number.
Johnny Hooker. It's good.
Anybody rock and roll to me.
I love the Johnny Hooker just for the kind of the.
All right, so are we saying that? Let's see here. Let's just look at what we got. Are we saying that Jeff Beck, Peter Green? I'm just looking at the thing. Merle Travis, Tim Henson, Roy Buchanan, John Lee Hooker, Gary Moore, Mark Knopfler, Thin Lizzy. Are any of those guys more influential than George Harrison? No way. Are any of those guys better? I don't know. Are those guys better songwriters than George Harrison? No. I mean, none of those guys. Maybe Joni Mitchell. Other than Joni Mitchell, I would say that Mark Knopfler is a great songwriter, but not better than George Harrison. Heck, I think Phil Lynott is a better songwriter than all those guys that I'm looking at right now. But he played bass, so he doesn't count. Poor Phil Lynott, you know, died too soon. You know, I love Thin Lizzy. If you guys don't know Thin Lizzy, dig into their early albums, their pre-Jailbreak albums. Like just incredible, great mid-70s, mid-tempo rock. Another band that is underrated is the Alice Cooper Band. All those early Alice Cooper records are really deep. They're really tuneful. You know, he got overshadowed by his whole stage gimmicks. But those are 2 bands that I recommend if you want to dig deep into their catalog. Stephen Stills, had a lot of alternate tunings, especially when his solo.
Man, our list is getting big. Yeah,
but I got George Harrison. I don't think anybody knocks George Harrison off my list for for parts.
What about the Steve Vais and the Joe Satriani's and all those guys? And the Ingves.
I don't think they make my top 10, but maybe somebody's. I'm sure they make somebody's top 10. I bet you anything that Steve Vai makes Steve Vai's top 10 list.
Does he?
I'm sure he does. Yeah. I'm surprised nobody tempted nobody poked the bear here with Zappa. Nobody got me on my little Zappa thing here. Thank you for that. But and no link raise here.
No.
But all right, so we got.
I do there's a lot of Knopfler great guitarring.
Pete Townsend,
would have influenced a lot of people.
Pete Townsend, Pete Townsend, another one. Incredible parts. By my measuring, I would put Pete Townsend definitely in my top 10. Dweezil Zappa, nice. Jeff is trying to goad me now. Dweezil Zappa, yeah.
But I like it when Townsend gets to about 96, 7 or 7, and he starts putting pedal notes under everything. I think it's actually way cooler.
And
on Live at Leeds when he plays Substitute, he just you get that.
The 12-string originally. Do you know what Pete Townsend's best song is, in my opinion? One of the most well-written songs of all time is Slit Skirts.
Oh.
You know Slit Skirts?
No.
The lyrics, it's from his 1981 album, All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. It's an incredible. Anybody here know Slit Skirts? It's an amazing song. The incense burned away and the stench began to rise. The words are amazing to that song. I'm not a words guy. Lindsey Buckingham, another really good one. David Gilmour, good one, Jameson. Yeah, we didn't mention David Gilmour, but Sean got it too. David Gilmour. All of you guys need to learn to spell, first of all. Like somebody wrote there, There. It's Their. Come on. I've got Tusk says he loves Slit Skirts. So
who is Jorma Kaukonen?
Jorma Kaukonen was the original guitar player for the. He was in Hot Tuna, but originally was the Jefferson Airplane. So you guys can throw whatever you want at me. It's like having an encyclopedia in front of you here.
Kurt Cobain is a good one.
Kurt Cobain is a good one. Yeah, very influential.
He's a really good one.
Yeah.
He is a really good one.
So there was a video of Kurt Cobain. Roy Clark is certainly. Roy Clark, some of you might know this story, but I'll tell Robert. So Roy Clark was very important to my playing guitar. So there was a failed attempt when I was 10 years old to play guitar. I took 6 lessons. I hated it. We gave the $5 guitar back to my neighbor that we borrowed from. And then a year later, a video came on, a commercial came on TV. It was Roy Clark, and he said, learn how to play guitar, on your own. You put these stickers on the guitar. So I'm like, oh, that's great. I'll learn to play guitar. I'll teach myself guitar. So I convinced my dad to get me a guitar. Got me a cheap electric guitar and an amplifier, and I never actually bought the sticker thing. And it only took me 20 years, but I finally figured out how to play. That's seriously how I started playing. I didn't want to take lessons, so I just fiddled about. And Simon, you can attest to the fact that back in the old days, there was nothing to learn with, right? I mean, there were no internet. There was no. If you got lucky, you got your hands on a what do you call it? Hot Licks tape.
Oh yeah, no, those were unobtainium.
Unfortunately, the only way you get them is if they floated in like on a bottle, right? Like if you happen to be on the shore of Jersey and there happens to be like, oh, there's a scroll here. Oh, it's Beethoven's Fifth. Oh, let's see what that sounds like. Like Message in a Bottle was written for you. No, but
man. So are we gonna put a top 10 through?
Yeah, we're gonna put a top 10 through, and we're gonna see. Nobody got the answer to my first question. The answer is Coliseum was the other band that Gary Moore was in, actually Coliseum 2, but we won't get into that whole thing about how they couldn't use the name because Don Hextall. Anyway, but
Brian may not have mentioned
who? Zach? No, I'm just kidding. All right, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Stevie Ray Vaughan, yeah, definitely.
Not most important though.
We used to have Burt Whedon playing a day. Yes, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, I had the Frederick Noad method. Remember Frederick Noad used to be on TV. He was a classical player, and I had his book, but it didn't do me much good. So I did learn one thing from that very first teacher. I learned this:
Hank Marvin.
Still know
Take it on the road, Mark. Take it on the road. I reckon you've got a hit there.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for teaching me that. Alvin Lee
What are
Randy
they at?
Rhoads. Yes, Quincy, Alvin Lee Randy Rhoads. But in order, here, Jameson, in order for Alvin Lee to be on the list, you have to name. I'm not going to call you out, but everybody can help you. You have to name at least 10 Alvin Lee songs. Go. To be in the top 10, you have to name at least 10 songs by the artist.
Sandra very sensibly says Hank Marvin.
Hank Marvin.
So
Not
I
to
think
be confused with Lee Marvin. Hank Marvin.
Very influential guitar player.
Sure. Dave Mason, yeah.
Yeah.
I have the Head Keeper album on vinyl. Head Keeper is his name. You know that one? Head Keeper, Dave Mason. No?
I love there's lots of Hank stuff.
Yeah, tell me. So all right, let's go with the 10 song rule. Can we name 10 songs by Hank Marvin?
Yeah, I can.
You can? All right. I trust you. All right. So Hank Marvin gets to make the list. I bet.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he wrote the songs, but he, like him and the Shadows.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I bet of all the people that all of you good people, all 30 of you on here right now have named tonight, I bet the one artist that you can name the most songs by is George Harrison. All of you, I'm willing to bet. Even you non-Beatle fans. John Mayer is a great guitarist. Yeah, you know what's great though? Have you seen the B.B. King, Derek Trucks, so John Mayer? So John Mayer, if you haven't seen it, you got it. Can you find that, Simon? So John Mayer, B.B. King, and Derek Trucks are playing this concert, and Derek Trucks takes a solo, and B.B. King's like his jaw drops, and B.B. King says, and John Mayer's sitting there, he just took a solo too, and B.B. King says,
"It's pretty good.
That might be the best I've ever heard." And everybody starts going crazy. And John Mayer's like, he doesn't know what to do. He just sits up there looking like, a little bit like a jackass, which is okay. Right? Dave Mason is the 12th string of All on the Watchtower. Dave Mason also recorded a version of All on the Watchtower in 1977.
Did he?
He did, yeah. Yeah, and I knew that. Tusk redeems himself.
Slash.
Slash, yeah, that's a good choice.
That's a great one. I like that.
I like Slash.
What about Richie Sambora?
Paul
you get into the whole 80s zone.
Richie Sambora. How about Stevie Stevens from the Billy Idol band, right? You gotta get Or how about who's the guy from Poison?
Yes.
Gordon Lightfoot. Yeah, certainly. I love Gordon Lightfoot. Steve Morse, nice. Cruise Missile, right? I know a little Steve Morse. And what band did Steve Morse join in the 80s? I bet you whoever Jeff knows. Anybody? CC DeVille. Thanks, Jeff. What band?
CC DeVille. Yes.
CC DeVille. What band did Steve Morse join in the 80s? Anybody know? Going once. Going twice. I'll give you a hint. It's the name of a state. It's the name of a state. Their biggest hit was Dust in the Wind.
Kansas?
Yeah. He played with Kansas in the 80s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, originally.
Hey, Man of Mystery is a great song. All that
Kansas.
business.
There you go. What do we got? All right, so let's make our list. So what do we got? Who's number one?
Well, should we go backwards from number one? I don't know.
Yeah, no, let's go with 10. Number 10 is
Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson. Number 10 is Robert Johnson. I'm good with that. Steve Howe's good.
Yeah.
Tom Schultz too. Yeah. Terry Livgren. Yeah. All right. So number 10 is Robert Johnson. Number 9, John Lee Hooker. I like it. I can't name 10 songs by him, but I like his name.
But surely, we're going to run out. If we put John Lee Hooker in there, there's a lot of other guitar players there. How about at the bottom of the 10? How about we put somebody like?
How about number 8? We put Tommy Tedesco, Big Jim Sullivan,
the unknown guitarist,
Glenn Campbell, and Steve Lukather. The session guitarist. Number 8 is
the session guitarist. Number 8. I like that.
Yes.
That's a good way of shoehorning a whole bunch of them in.
Sure.
See, then the top three, we're going to have different order, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get all right.
Are we going to put Les Paul in the top 10 somewhere?
Yeah, I'll give Les Paul. I know like 4 Les Paul songs, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, but he is super influential.
Yeah,
right?
he invented the solid body electric guitar, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
James Burton,
influential.
Carl Perkins. Yeah, we mentioned James Burton earlier. Carl Perkins too, for sure. Great players. Yeah.
And then you have to put Clapton in there.
Oh wait, we don't want to, Rick. We don't want to put Page in with the session guys, though, right? I know he was a great session player, right?
He gets his own. He gets his own spot.
Page claimed to have written instead of Ray Davies. He said he did it.
Really?
Yeah. Robert Fripp. Yeah, Robert Fripp's got a great. If you haven't seen it, he's got a really good. He and his wife have a cool YouTube channel. I forget those times. Yeah, that's what I do, and Simon does. All right.
Okay. BB King.
No. Rick Beato does not make the list.
BB King.
BB King, number 7.
Okay. Then what about that sort of Wes Montgomery, Charlie Christian situation?
All right. Jazz artists of the 1930s through 60s. All right. Joe Pass. How about Joe Pass? Right. All right. So that's number. Is that number 6? Number 6 is jazz artists from the 30s through 60s.
Okay, we're getting to the pointy end. It's just that's where it's going to get exciting.
There's a lot of guitar players to cram into this 5 here, right? We've got like
Beck, well, I think Slash is absolutely
Slash.
Really, yeah.
All right, at the risk of leaving out another one, we're going to put Slash in at number 5.
There's one we didn't even think of.
Slash does pass the test that I can easily name 10 Slash songs. I can name probably 20 Slash songs.
And I also think Kurt Cobain has to make the list.
So anyway, there's a video of Kurt Cobain playing in whatever Nova blah blah blah's basement or upstairs in his mom's studio. Yeah, and he's playing this far away from the wall, like they're practicing. So rather than turning in towards the band, he's playing like this. He's jamming out, singing, and going like that with his face pressed against the. You got to see it. Press against the wall.
How about you have this as a proviso? If you've got a guitar player who has like a particular chord that is associated with them.
Oh, like this one?
That is a good one. But I was thinking of this one.
Is that
right? Because the way he played guitar was like that. So every single time he played an E-shaped bar chord, he would play a sus4.
How about Damon Albarn?
He doesn't play guitar.
I'm not Damon Albarn. What's his name? Help me out. I can't believe I can't think of it. I can't think of the worst guitarist. It's the one thing I've thrown out all the great trivia tonight. Yeah, thank you.
He is awesome.
He is awesome. Yeah, very innovative player too.
Yes. So there's a lot we're missing out. But the top 3. Let's go straight into the top 3. Who are the top 3, Mark?
Top 3. Number 3. Jimi Hendrix is number 3 on my list. Number 3. I know, like controversial. Number 2. Jimmy Page.
What?
And number 1. George Harrison.
That's not right.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Number 22. John Lennon. And number 29. Paul McCartney.
Oh, number 29. Yeah. How about I go with 3. Chuck Berry.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Chuck Berry. Oh well, I'm gonna keep mine. Chuck Berry 4 for me.
I'll go George at 2 and Jimmy at 1.
All right.
Just
so
because.
Wait. Let me think here. So if we combine our 2 lists,
yeah,
I've got George at number 1 and Jimmy at number 3. You've got Jimmy at number 1, George at number 2. Then I think George.
Then I'm going to put George at number 4.
All right, tie then. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I know so here's the thing. Maybe George Harrison is not the greatest player of all time, but in the Book of Rock lists, which has the 30 greatest guitar players, he's nowhere on there. And every list that I've looked at, he doesn't come in the top 20 at all, which is ridiculous. So as soon as I look at a list and I peruse and I see no George Harrison in the top 20, I just throw it over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Because it's like he's married to Toya Wilcox. Yes. They have a great channel. You know who else? All right, I'm gonna push this guy's channel because it's really good. There's a guy, the lead singer of the band The Darkness.
Oh, who I went to go and see last week at a gig, or 2 weeks ago.
This guy, he's got a YouTube channel. He's incredibly bright, or at least he's very articulate. If he's not bright, he's
very funny.
Very articulate, and he's got a YouTube channel that's growing like wildfire. He had like 6 months ago, he had like 10 subscribers. Now he's got 500,000. What's his name? Help me out. Justin.
His name is
Justin Hawkins.
Justin Hawkins.
Yeah, Justin Hawkins Sings Again is the name of his channel, and it's a
Rides Again.
Rides Again. Phenomenal channel. Justin Hawkins Rides Again. There's that little thing at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
After my 3 favorite channels in order are Simon Morel.
Oh, he's good, that guy.
8 Minute Acts.
Yeah.
Justin Hawkins. Other channels I like: Professor of Rock. Great. Adam Reeder, the Professor of Rock. Great channel. He's now. Paul Davids is another amazing channel. Hey, those of you that think fancy yourself good guitar players, next week I'm doing the Paul Davids 7-day impossible challenge to play his arpeggio sequence at 120. Those of you that fancy yourself shred masters, I'm throwing the gauntlet down. The Paul Davids 7-day challenge. Email me if you want me to send you the video. All right, so we have to have number 4. Last one is number 4. Who's number 4? Number 4 is, and then we got to go.
It's a big decision, isn't it?
Number 4 is Skip James. We haven't mentioned him yet.
No. Or Herbert Sumlin.
Yeah. Who? All right, let's ask people. Who did Herbert Sumlin play for? Anybody know?
What about the other Kings? Freddie King and Albert King.
B.B. King was on our list. Albert King, Freddie King.
B.B. King we already had, right?
Albert King played the Flying V.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a lot of those little. He liked to do those little pull-offs, right?
Well, Albert King is like the master of the extreme vibrato, I reckon.
Okay.
So, like in Born Under a Bad Sign.
Definitely innovative,
he's a.
Yes. That's good. It sounds like B.B. King right there, though.
He's a bit more.
Yeah. I'm not really into the subtleties of. Nice. Zach says he subscribed. Zach, give us a little editorial on the. All right, Tommy Tedesco. Boom. Charles, we brought him.
Yeah, number 4. That's a good one. I like it. Isn't he in the unnamed?
He's already in the other thing. He's already on there, Charles. No, we can't have him. Let's say number 4 is Clapton. Eric Clapton, number 4. Even though he's got some crazy political views, but that notwithstanding.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who have flimsy views. We can't cancel everybody.
Mike Bloomfield. So
Mike, a good one.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of Mike Bloomfield, but I do know the East West album, and I know the song East West very well. As a matter of fact, I tried to learn that note for note once. That solo, it's a very Phrygian solo. One of the few. It's a kind of a dissonant Egyptian sounding solo.
Ooh.
Maybe melodic minor. All right. Yeah. Why is it that blues guitarists are always the top? Right. That's why. Let's clear this list out. Let's start again. Number 1, George Harrison. Number 2, the rest of the group. Oh, Billy Gibbons. Oh, we forgot David Gilmour. You know what? Let's put David Gilmour at number 4.
Sure.
Yeah. We like David Gilmour.
Yeah, he's a blues guitarist in disguise.
Blues guitarist. Yeah. They're all blues guitarists except for George Harrison. George Harrison transcended the blues, right? He turned it into.
But look at the solo in what's the name? The Wall. It's just like, if that's not a blues lick, I don't know what is.
All right. So what we're gonna do is since I didn't give a gift certificate away this week, we're gonna double the prize next week. We're gonna do, instead of $20, it's gonna be $40 next week.
Woo!
Like the lottery keeps going up each time. So I apologize. So tune in next time. All right, please. I'm sorry that and put your thinking caps on, because we're gonna be doing some trivia next time. The next one we're gonna do, we're not sure yet, but we're gonna do Stump Me. Not only do you have to get the trivia question right, Simon's gonna come up with some questions, but you have to get one right that I can't get.
What do you mean I actually did need to do some prep, Mark? You're kidding, aren't you?
Not really, not too much prep.
Oh,
You can just do like you and Sandra can have this little, UK thing going.
We'll just ask questions about Graham Coxon's career for you.
Or about Graham Cox, or about what's the band that had like 900 hits in the UK and none or only one in Pictures of Status Quo.
Status Quo, yeah.
Those of you that are new to our thing here. So the band Status Quo, my math stinks. No, my math does not stink. I actually just got a job. This is a true story. I'm teaching college prep algebra 2 trigonometry right now because my stepson actually is in this program. It's very expensive, and for staff it's cheaper. So I'm teaching 4 hours a week. I swear to God, I'm teaching. This is so random, but she's telling me my math stinks. My math is very good. Oh, 25. No, 25 was your price, Sandra. That was the special thing. 20 is what I normally give on.
That's Sandra's special price.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's
time for us to go, Mark.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, last thing, we're gonna leave you with this. All you American, all you Yanks out there like me. So we all know Status Quo is that footnote band in history that had one hit in 1968, Pictures of Matchstick Men. Little did we know that across the pond, they would accumulate no less than 69 top 40 hits. That's a true, 69 top 40 hits. I didn't even know they wrote 69 songs.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Anyway, that is cool. All right, everybody, please be safe. Have a great night. Have a happy, whatever the next holiday you celebrate is. I know, I don't want to say, because I know that just like the weekend, yes, Thanksgiving is an American holiday, and we're a multinational show here, so.
Thanksgiving. Is that coming up, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. What, you don't celebrate it around the world? I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We thought Manifest Destiny was a thing. Apparently not. All right.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
Ciao. Good night, everyone.